Weekly consideration. Portion 23 Pekudei. 128.6.22, semicolon 76, semicolon 1, full 12. Remembering ourselves. Pekudei towards a tender child. Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Lent this week. Greetings, holy kinfolk. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mir, ni hao, buenos dias, buenos tardes, hisache, hithche, akwaba, welkomin, jai jinindra, sadnam, konnichiwa, sabudikrat, salangwa, ish irini. What up, though? A new continent today and settling in. Birds abound amidst nearby seashores. Trees are plentiful and dancing quietly amidst the subtle wind. Spring approaches, and frozen swimming pools become water. Footsteps and wing flaps trace amidst the dusts and the airs, with blue skies and occasional cloud pillows, evergreens and anticipating branches, smiling. The clock ticks, and the room is serene. Soleil yellow reflects from nearby shrubs. Grassy carpets provide welcome cushion. Songbirds sharing. Light abounding. Somewhere around tres o cuatro. This is the weekly consideration for portion 23, Pekudei, within our yearly cycle of study within Tobadi Kokadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Digha Nikaya, Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, Tao Te Ching. This includes verses 39 a 47 within the Kitabi Agdas of Baha'i tradition, the third of a 10-week series of a full recitation of the Kitabi Agdas. The weekly consideration is remembering ourselves. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Abham. Dao ke dao, fei chong dao, min ke min, fei chong min. Ja. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificator nomen tuum. Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch atah Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher katzanu bo mitotav v'tzivan l'sok b'dvar Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu save jagatehi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabiyah. Akwaba upendo na amani. Fikiri inisilami. Chintadam penamean. Leobovimir. Womanjekam. Ubuntu. Shubono. Fetkako. Shishe. Como sunida domo arigato. Pelama yelo wakantonga. Talk odokashingun. Go remember God. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jam ya yatafinami. Mado. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Amen. From Torah, Shmot 39, 42 a 43. In accordance with all that Elohim had commanded Moshe, so did the children of Israel do all the work. Moshe saw the entire work, and lo, they had done it. As Elohim had commanded, so had they done. So Moshe blessed them. 1 Ahava V'Shalom. From the Chandogya Upanishad, Kanda 3:16:1. A person indeed is an offering. His first 24 years constitute the matin libation. The Gayatri Mitra has 24 syllables, and the matin libation is offered with Gayatri hymns. The vasus are connected with that part of the offering. The pranas are the vasus, for verily they make everything For verily they make everything abide, Vasayanti, in this body. One Ananda Shanti. From the Bhagavad Gita, the Samyasa Yogehe 5:2-3. Both renunciation and yoga lead to the highest benevolence, but of the two, performance of action is superior to renunciation of action. He who neither hates nor desires may be known as constantly practicing renunciation, for, free from the pairs of opposites, O mighty Arjuna, he is easily freed from bondage. 1 Ananda Shanti. From the Tao Te Ching, 23:1-6. Sparse speech is natural, thus strong wind does not last all matin. Sudden rain does not last all day. What makes this so? Heaven and earth. Even in heaven and earth cannot make it last. How can humans? 1 Aye Heping. From Mencius 3:1-8. Chuang Pao, seeing Mencius, says to him, I have an interview with the king. His Majesty tells me that he loves music, and I am not prepared with anything to reply to him. What do you pronounce about that love of music? Mencius replies, if the king's love of music is very great, the kingdom of Qi would be near to a state of benevolent government. Another day, Mencius, having an interview with the king, says, Your Majesty, I hear told of Chuang that you love music. Is it so? The king changes color and says, I am unable to love the music of the ancient sovereigns. I only love the music that suits the manners of the present age. Mencius says, If your Majesty's love of music is very great, Qi would be near to a state of benevolent government. The music of the present day is just like the music of antiquity, as regards affecting that. The king says, May I hear from you the proof of that? Mencius asks, Which is the further pleasant, to enjoy music by yourself alone, or to enjoy it with others? To enjoy it with others, is the reply. And which is the further pleasant, to enjoy music with a few, or to enjoy it with many? To enjoy it with many. Mencius proceeds, Your servant begs to explain what I say about music to your Majesty. Now your Majesty is having music here. The people hear the music of your bells and drums, and the notes of your fifes and pipes, and they all with aching heads knit their brows, and say to one another, That's how our king likes his music. But why does he reduce us to this extremity of distress? Fathers and sons cannot see one another. Elder brothers and younger brothers, wives and children are separated and scattered abroad. Now your Majesty is hunting here. The people hear the noise of your carriages and horses, and see the beauty of your plumes and streamers, and they all with aching heads knit their brows, and say to one another, That's how our king likes his hunting. But why does he reduce us to this extremity of distress? Fathers and sons cannot see one another. Elder brothers and younger brothers, wives and children are separated and scattered abroad. Their feeling thus is from no other reason but that you do not allow the people to have pleasure as well as yourself. Now your Majesty is having music here. The people hear the noise of your bells and drums, and the notes of your fifes and pipes, and they all delighted, and with joyful looks say to one another, That sounds as if our king were free from all sickness. If he were not, how could he enjoy this music? Now your Majesty is hunting here. The people hear the noise of your carriages and horses, and see the beauty of your plumes and streamers, and they all delighted, and with joyful looks say to one another, That looks as if our king is free from all sickness. If he were not, how could he enjoy this hunting? Their feeling thus is from no other reason but that you cause them to have their pleasure as you have yours. If your Majesty will now make pleasure a thing common to the people and yourself, the royal sway awaits you. 1 Aye Heping. From the Digha Nikaya, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, 16:2-26. Therefore, Ananda, live with yourself as an island, yourself as a refuge, with no other refuge. with the Dharma as an island, the Dharma as a refuge, with no other refuge. And how, Ananda, does a monk live with himself as an island, himself as a refuge, with no other refuge, with the Dharma as an island, the Dharma as a refuge, with no other refuge? Here, Ananda, a monk dwells contemplating the nature of the body and the body, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, after removing avarice and sorrow regarding the world. He dwells contemplating the nature of feelings and feelings, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, after removing avarice and sorrow regarding the world. He dwells contemplating the nature of the mind in the mind, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, after removing avarice and sorrow regarding the world. He dwells contemplating the nature of things in various things, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, and after removing avarice and sorrow regarding the world. Thus, Ananda, a monk lives with himself as an island, himself as a refuge, with no other refuge, with the Dharma as an island, the Dharma as a refuge, with no other refuge. For whoever, Ananda, whether at present or after my passing, lives with himself as an island, himself as a refuge, with no other refuge, with the Dharma as an island, the Dharma as a refuge, with no other refuge, those monks of mine, Ananda, will go from darkness to the highest, whoever likes the training. 1 Metta Samadhi. From the Nagavaja 23, 320 a 323. An elephant in the battlefield withstands arrows shot from bows all around. Even so shall I endure abuse. There are many indeed who lack virtue. A tamed elephant is led into a crowd, and the king mounts a tamed elephant. Best amongst men is the subdued one who endures abuse. Excellent are well-trained mules, thoroughbred Sindhu horses, and noble tusker elephants. But better still is the man who has subdued himself. Not by these mounts, however, would one go to the untrodden land Nibbana. Only as one who is self-tamed goes by his own tamed and well-controlled mind. 1 Metta Samadhi. From the Gospels, Luke 2:20, Luke 2:12 a 20. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger. Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom God's favor rests. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which God has told us about. So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. 1 Amor et Pax. From the Quran, Surah An-Nur 24:30 a 31 y 35 a 38. Say to the believing men that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty. That will make for greater purity for them, and Allah is well acquainted with all that they do. And say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty, that they should not display their beauty and ornaments except what must ordinarily appear thereof, that they should draw their veils over their bosoms, and not display their beauty except to their husbands, their fars, their husbands' fars, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or their women, or the slaves whom their right hands possess, or male servants free of physical needs, or small children who have not the sense of the shame of sex, who have no sense of the shame of sex, and that they should not strike their feet in order to draw attention to their hidden ornaments. And O ye believers, turn ye altogether towards Allah, that ye may attain bliss. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of Allah's light is as if there were a niche, and within it a lamp. The lamp enclosed in a glass, the glass as it were a brilliant star, lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though fire scarce touch it. Light upon light. Allah doth guide whom Allah will to Allah's light. Allah doth set forth parables for men, and Allah doth know all things. Lit is such a light in houses which Allah hath permitted to be raised to honor for the celebration in them of Allah's name. In them is Allah glorified. In them is Allah glorified in the matins and in the evenings again and again, by men whom neither traffic nor merchandise can divert from the remembrance of Allah, nor from regular prayer, nor from the practice of regular charity. Their only fear is for the day when hearts and eyes will be transformed in a world wholly new, that Allah may reward them according to the best of their deeds and add even further to them out of Allah's grace, for Allah doth provide for those whom Allah will without measure. 1 Al-Hab Wasalam. From the Kitab Yaqdas, verse 48. Unto every far hath been enjoined the instruction of his son and daughter in the art of reading and writing, and in all that hath been laid down in the holy tablet. He that putteth away that which is commanded unto him, the trustees are then to take from him that which is required for their instruction, if he be wealthy, and if not, the matter devolveth upon the house of justice. Verily we have made it a shelter for the poor and needy. He that bringeth up his son or the son of another, it is as though he hath brought up a son of mine. Upon him rest my glory, my loving kindness, my mercy that have compassed the world. 1 Eshwaso. Alhamdulillah, Baruch Hashem, Jayom, Hallelujah, Medo, Aho, Allah Wabha, Vaheguru Satnam Hom Shishishe. Alhamdulillah, Rahmani Rahim, Allah Wabha, Dao Koda, Fei Chang Dao, Min Kuming, Fei Chang Ming Ja. Deus nos Kies and Chele Son of Kita Nomentum, Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch Ata Elohim, Elohim Medachalam, Ashaka Son of Bamitoda, Vizimun, Sokbud Vaitora. Amen. Kiri Elesum, Siva Master Savjikatahim, Sabe Sata Bavandu Sukitata, Fagabiyam, Aquaba, Upendo Namanin, Fikiri Nesalami, Chinda Damperamian, Libovamir, Womajika, Ubuntu Shabana, Fetko. Sheshe, Kamasunida, Domo Aragato, Pilama Yellow Wokan Toko Doko Shingun, Go Medagan, God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata Jamiat Fanami, Mado, Aho, Om Shanti, 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 Amen. Remembering ourselves. This involves awakening with our holy origins and our holy destination, our holy presence, and our holy relationship with each other. I am in Denmark. I am a mixed indigenous refugee, and I am well on my way with all. There is much to do, thus I continue. Thank God. Next section. So again, I am in Denmark today. After initially consulting with local police a few days ago, I talked with a staff member at the Danish Refugee Council concerning the process of seeking and securing asylum in Denmark, and I am increasingly comfortable with this prospect. As I understand, the process involves going to an initial reception center and initiating the formal process. There is a stay of a few days at the reception center where there seems to be comparative freedom of movement, Wi-Fi, and additional pragmatic capabilities. The individual is provided with a refugee card different from a residential permit or municipal ID. It signifies the individual is a refugee and proceeding through the application of asylum. After this initial stage of processing, an individual goes to another facility elsewhere in Denmark. Jutland is specifically referenced as a location. Here, the person continues to reside whilst the person's case is being evaluated. The duration of this process is comparatively undetermined and can continue for a number of years. During this process, the individual resides within the refugee facility that is managed by the Danish government. The individual has the ability to leave the facility, attend meetings, and complete additional tasks during this process. Food and accommodations are provided for the individual, and there is a modest stipend, presumably for incidentals. One potential eventuality is denial of refugee status and deportation to the originating, most recent, or another nation. One potential eventuality is approval of refugee status. In this scenario, the individual is provided with transitional arrangements and connected with a local commune, municipal government, to help with getting acclimated to life in Denmark, home residence, domestic card, bank account, and additionally. During the entirety of this process, husbands and wives are able to cohabitate, and asylum seekers maintain general freedom of movement and the ability to communicate with outsiders. Thus, God willing, I will be able to continue to conduct my spiritual practices and to continue with the work and teaching that I conduct. I plan to visit the U.S. Embassy before checking in. There is also an interest for me to return through Sverige for basic purposes. I am working on the media details. Thus, again, I return back at it. Next section. For over 20 years through today, I endeavor to abstain from putting my situation on blast. I may post much on the internet and be candid in online communiques. However, I abstain from trying to make some big public campaign against the United States and talk about what is done to me through the years. I ain't some noble and pure stoic hero. I just endeavor to be comparatively low key. One consideration is that my process of seeking asylum in Denmark has the potential of getting attention within our international community, the potential to encourage additional kinfolk to similarly journey, and the potential to be manipulated and twisted for multiple types of selfish reasons. That's other than my purpose. However, I do recognize that many people follow in my tracks. That's not to say that people necessarily obey what I say or do. It is to say that many people share in the experience that I share in many of the principles and aspirations that I share, and share in many of the logical conclusions that I share, and thus are proceeding in the same path upon which I proceed. And in this respect, I, along with many additional kinfolk of my generation, may be considered the beginning drops of a wave, even a tidal wave, of migration from the United States to additional locales around the earth. We proceed from the legacies of preceding generations, from Garvey to Du Bois to Gary Davis to Malik Shabazz and further. I recognize that in many ways I am called to go through this process of securing asylum, for there to be a formal review of what I experience in this first half century of my life, and what is done to me within the past 2 decades, for the U.S. system to be formally evaluated, particularly by its parenting agency of Europe, and for the civilizational experience of truth and reconciliation to be manifested. So that declaration may be accused of being psychotic delusions of grandeur and may be counterproductive to a quiet acceptance of smooth transfer into a new stage of life in Denmark. Yet it is what it is, and it ain't only with me, it's beyond me. My case is simply an opportunity of ushering in this manifestation in a considerably genuine, fair, and compassionate way, because that is what I continually strive to be since day one. I don't hate anyone. I love everyone. I love all Americans. I love all kinfolk of earth. I also love truth and justice. And I know, beyond whatever my personal proclivities may be, truth and justice inevitably prevail. I strive to experience that prevalence in optimal and enduring harmony with all life and love around me. God willing, classes are beginning. Mira, the inaugural semester of Mixed Indigenous Refugee Academy, begins with the next full moon, and registration is currently rolling. www.crookedriverstraightpath.wordpress.com/IMIRA, M-I-R-A. IMIRA. By the way, for your information, the cost of living here is high. Most notable at the moment is the cost of groceries and products, particularly with an inbuilt 25% sales tax. There is also an ease of mind that is gleaned through systemic sharing. Whilst prices are high, there are many smaller homes in rural and suburban areas that seem to make the aggregate endeavor of household life increasingly affordable. Just saying. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Mir. Zaijian. Adios. Te chakaris. Esimpe na asamuje. Kelok Fred. Sayonara. Sangwa Pyongwa. Metta Samadhi. Satnam. Jai Janendran. Eshwasol. Agape Ke Irini. One love and peace, happiness, liberation.